What's up, guys? So I'm back with a video. I know it's been a while, but finally got a new car. So here's the first video that we're gonna do today with the GT4. The F80 M3, the blue one, is completely gone. It's been sold, and we picked this up from Porsche River Oaks in Houston. So it's pretty much all stock. I'll do a quick walk around for you guys, and then I'll get into what we're gonna do with today's video. So the car is pretty much all stock. All that's been done to it is a PPF clear bra on the front and some 5% tint all around, and 0 to 60 customs. Added a couple little yellow accents and stripes for us as well. Did the little spoiler decal too to just kind of top it off, but that's pretty much it. So for those of y'all who saw my old videos with the M3, you know that I like to make the cars as loud as possible. So if you didn't guess already, the first video that we're gonna be doing with this car is installing a full straight pipe on it. We got a complete Dundon race exhaust, headers, back, the whole 9 yards. So I'm gonna try to figure out a way to load that exhaust into the back of this hatch. Hopefully it all fits. We might have to put some in the passenger seat, and then we're gonna get on the road and head over towards my buddy's shop and try to take care of this install today. All right, so as you can see, I kind of dismantled the boxes that these parts came in. The reason is because I'm limited on vehicle space for transporting it, and I don't feel like taking the truck first to the shop and dropping off the boxes and then coming back and getting the Porsche. So the box is now empty besides all of the packaging stuff, and I've put the actual main components inside of the frunk. It's kind of cool, first time I've ever had a frunk, so I'm getting to use that. Just got a bunch of miscellaneous clamps, hardware, connector pipes, the headers of course, and then I'll show you guys in the back. I got one piece there as well. Here's the other box, and then here's the back section, and I believe that's called the crack pipe is what Dundon calls it. So I'm gonna go ahead and close the GT4 up, get everything tight and ready to go, and we'll probably go get some coffee on the way there and get the show on the road. All right, guys, so we made it to HF Automotive Performance, and we're unloading the exhaust out of the frunk right now. We're gonna get everything laid out and organized, ready to go, and then we'll put the car up on the lift, and we'll start taking a look underneath the engine. All right, so we got the GT4 on the lift, and we're jacking it up right now. I'll show you guys, this is how we got it positioned. We got good clearance. It was a little bit low, so it was hard to get underneath the jack points, but we got it all figured out. Taking it up and letting the exhaust cool off before we start tearing everything apart. So this is the stock exhaust that we're taking apart. As you can see, it's got the big mufflers and cats and everything over here. So we're gonna take off all these diffusers and whatnot and get some more access to the headers and the rest of the exhaust. And we'll start showing you guys the process of taking everything and disassembling it. All right, so I figured I'd show you guys. The entire underneath of this car has got carpeting and plastic covers, whether they're for airflow or just protection. I just found it interesting. I've never had a car like this before where everything is totally covered up. You can see there's some airflow ducts right there, and then when you come further to the back, you got some airflow channels right here to things like your brakes and your exhaust system to keep things as cool as possible. So that's what we're gonna work on removing right now, and Darian's taking all those pieces off so we can get some more access. All right, so Darian got off the main diffuser piece back here that we just showed, and we're working our way up to the front carpeting, getting all that pulled off. All right, so we got all of the covers off, and you can see the headers a little bit better now. This is pretty much what we're working with as far as access to everything. Might pull off a couple more braces and maybe the wheels, depending on if we think necessary, but we're kind of just going step by step to see how much access we need in different spots. So as you can see, the headers are pretty accessible compared to most front engine cars. You can see all the studs for the headers right there. So still warm, we're letting it cool down a little bit more, but we'll keep you updated. Alrighty, so this is what we've decided to remove from the car for easier access. These are some braces right here. That's the big metal cover from the middle of the car, and then these are the diffuser components from the back of the car. So I'll show you guys how it looks right now. Gives us pretty good access to everything. You can kind of see the headers all the way back in there, and might pull off the wheels too just for some more access and video clearance, so that way we can show you guys everything we're doing. But really not a whole lot to it. It's different than a front engine car, so everything's a lot more compact in the rear, and you can kind of reach everything from underneath the car. So I'm learning as I'm going, and the guys at HF are really helping me out. All right, guys, so I've unboxed pretty much all the pieces right here. Pretty much most of it is titanium. As you can tell, like these components, the headers and the cats and everything, the over axle pipes, all titanium. And then you can see the pieces with a little bit of a lighter sheen to them. These are Inconel. So the crack pipe and then these elbows are going to be Inconel, and then everything else is titanium. So it's very light. It's going to definitely save some weight over the stock system. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it all mounted up, but we're still waiting on the car to completely cool off as we slowly take pieces off once they're touchable from this heat. All right, so tell us what you're ratcheting on right now.
I'm actually taking off these bolts right here. What he's doing is he's splitting the header from the mid pipe so we can get the header out. And if you see the header, it's going to be bolted right here. And he's unbolting the flange to the mid pipe so we can get this header out.
I was just trying to take this hanger off the rod, and it's not, it spins freely. So up here, there is a portion of it might be hard to see, that has a hex on it. So probably some wrench is supposed to fit there. I just need to figure out what size, and then I can hold it and take the hanger off.
All right, so we're trying to remove the entire muffler with the over axle pipes. So we're gonna basically just lower this back section and kind of tilt the exhaust out like that over the axles. So hopefully we can get it all out in one piece and then disassemble it as we need to fit back in the car for the drive home.
Lift, try and rotate it out. Just like that.
There's pretty much half the exhaust taken out. Nothing too complicated. Only thing you guys might want to double check is make sure you've got your valves, the hose lines for the valves disconnected. You don't want to yank on those while you're pulling the exhaust out. So make sure you just double check that. There's one on each side. So we've got those all disconnected. Rear section's out, and we still have the headers and cat section in the front. So we're gonna start working on that now. Alrighty, so this is the OEM setup right here. You can see we got a huge box muffler in the rear, and then we've got these over axle pipe filters and your little valve system right there. So the new setup is gonna be a lot more simple. Over axle setup right there with some high flow cats, and then our rear section right there. So a lot less muffler, pretty much no muffler actually, it's just a crack pipe. It's gonna be a lot more minimal than this setup, a lot lighter. And the new setup also does not have any valves. I didn't option out any valves for this setup, so it'll be loud 24/7. So we'll see how that goes. But guys, one more thing to take note of with these vacuum lines for the valves is you're gonna wanna make sure you plug them. That way, if you press the valve button or something, it doesn't detect a vacuum leak since there's no back pressure on these anymore. So plug them up, that way it just doesn't throw any codes for you, and make sure everything's safe. Probably gonna zip tie them or get them somewhere out of the way by any moving parts or heat or anything like that. So just kind of ignore these for the time being since we don't have valves on the new setup. But obviously if you've got an exhaust with valves, you're gonna wanna reconnect these to your new valves. So we're gonna leave them right there, but we're gonna tuck them up somewhere, and we'll show you guys once we decide where they're gonna go.
All right, so we're just pulling the O2 sensor wires off. They're bracketed up, against the engine. I want to pull the exhaust manifolds out with the O2 sensors in it. It's just going to make things easier where we're not putting stress on wires or twisting anything. We're going to do it that way, but I'm still trying to disconnect everything, and then we'll be pulling the exhaust manifolds out.
There's the O2 before the cat, and then there's one right there after the cat. And we'll show you guys when we put the extenders that came with the Dundon kit to move the cats a little bit further back. So once we get the new parts going on, I'll give you an update about how the install is going.
So one of the challenges that we're having with installing these headers is the runners actually move individually of themselves, and they also come in and out of the coupler at the bottom.
So those springs are holding it back, so you might have to pull them in and out and oscillate the header a little bit to make sure that these header bolts are going to align with the manifold up there. So it's going to take a little bit of stretching and wiggling to make sure that everything aligns, but once you get it on the studs and bolted up, then everything should seat nice and tightly. Alrighty, so while Marcus works on that side, I'll show you guys this side is all installed, good to go. We're about to get it torqued down to spec, but everything's pretty much tightened. One thing to note with these titanium headers is make sure you guys go ahead and use some contact cleaner like acetone or alcohol and wipe off all of the fingerprints before you go through the first heat cycle. Otherwise, it'll literally stain your fingerprints into the metal. So if you care about it, having a clean finish, some people might not care, but if you do, it just takes 2 seconds to wipe it off. Make sure all the grease and fingerprints are off. That way you don't get any stains or fingerprint embedded into the headers or any other part of the exhaust. All right, guys, so if y'all are wondering, these nuts that are right here on the header, they go to about 30 Newton meter or 22 foot-pound, but a lot of people are just getting them pretty snug and hand tight and calling it. So it's kind of a difficult position to reach a torque wrench into. We're just gonna get them all pretty tight and then go from there. Alrighty, so now we're clamping the over axle pipe to the header, the V-bend clamp right there, and we're holding it secure while he takes care of that. We've got some O2 bungs that are gonna go somewhere right up here. So we'll show you guys in a second. Yeah, they're right up there. Show you guys in a second once we put the extenders for the O2. That way you can make sure you don't get any check engine lights. Alright guys, so the over axle pipes are super close to the actual car itself, and it takes a little bit of massaging to get them fit properly. So we left those V-band clamps slightly loose. That way they'll just hold these pipes in place. And then once we get the rear section where it needs to be, then we'll make sure that these align with the rear section. And once everything's in place and aligned, then we'll go down and actually tighten everything up and get it snug. But for now, we're gonna leave it like maybe 80% tight. That way we still have some wiggle room. We can get everything fitted how it needs to be. That way our tips and everything look good at the end. So just a pro tip, you know, I'm sure a lot of y'all have done exhaust before, so you know that. But if you haven't, then just make sure you keep things as loose as you can until you get everything fitted up and then tighten it all down towards the end. All right, so as you can see, it's coming along. We got the crack pipe fitted up. It's kind of just hanging on its own weight right now. We don't have the brace and everything put in yet. So we're about to get the brace and bolt it all up to the mount. And then, like I said, these are only slightly tightened. So we're gonna get everything real tight once we get this crack pipe situated and get the exhaust tips positioned. And it'll just take some back and forth tightening and massaging to get everything to fit exactly how we like. So for the time being, we're gonna get this crack pipe all mounted up. So these are the vacuum lines we were talking about earlier. We just capped them off with some vacuum plugs. That way we don't have any vacuum leaks according to the computer or anything. So these are gonna be removed since we no longer have valves. So we're making progress, as you can see. Still tightening things up and getting it all fitted as it needs to be. As you can see, that bracket is still not 100% cinched down yet, but we're just kind of test fitting everything and the tips look pretty sweet. So I'm excited to get it all finalized and tidied up before we give it a first cold start. Just working our way down, tightening, massaging, tightening, massaging. Just got to get everything to fit perfectly. Alrighty, so the blue O2 goes right there on the header piece. And then your black O2 is gonna come right here on the cat piece that's by the 90-degree bend. So we're gonna put the extender wires on it and make sure that we can tuck everything up and snug it up. That way it's out of the way of any moving parts, and reconnect all of those O2 sensors. Hopefully no check engine lights.
All right, so the rear O2s have to be extended up to the front. So I have the way that I have this is ran through the subframe right here and then zip tied here. So the wire is actually, you know, tucked into the subframe and behind this, so it can't hit the axle or get tangled in the axle or anything. And then it just kind of follows its stock routing all the way to the front.
All right, so the exhaust is all mounted up. We got the tips squared away. Everything is tightened down. Marcus is going ahead and wiping everything with some isopropyl alcohol to get the fingerprints off. Yep, there you go. Getting all the fingerprints off before we do the first startup and heat up the exhaust. We're gonna check for any exhaust leak and everything, but I think we should be pretty good. Everything seemed to tighten down and fit pretty snug. So one thing to keep note is that there's minimal clearance, so make sure that you don't have your over axle pipes rubbing on the car. Yeah, it's hard to reach on camera, but it took a little bit of massaging, kind of just wiggling the V-band clamps, tightening it, wiggling it, tightening it. And once we finally got everything bolted up and massaged it one last time, then it was able to get into place. So just take your time with the process. Make sure you tighten things down in order, and don't forget about plugging your O2 sensors and running those wires how they need to be ran. That way you don't have to worry about anything down the road. So everything looks good so far. We're gonna get back to you once we lower the car for a cold start. All right, we got the car lowered. As you can see, those are the new tips right there. They look pretty badass. They stick out a lot more than the original ones, and they've got like a brushed finish. We're gonna put these wheels back on, and then we're gonna give it a cold start and make sure that everything's fitted properly and there's no leaks. So once we finish that and everything checks out, hopefully, then we can go ahead and put all those skid plates and aerodynamic pieces underneath back together, and then we should be good to hit the road. Good, it's loud like we expected, so we're gonna let it go through, warm up. No check engine light, everything looks good so far. We're just burning off that alcohol from whenever we wipe the pipe down, so we're gonna let it go through a heat cycle, turn it off, cool off, and we'll check everything. The RPM's dropping now that it's warmed up, so we'll give you one more rev before we kill it.
like it?
I like it a lot. Sounds good. Car runs good, and I'm excited to break it in a little bit more. Car only has 316 miles still, so we haven't really redlined it yet, but we're gonna let the exhaust kind of get into place and do a couple heat cycles and let the engine break in a little more, and then we'll probably come back with another video, get some pretty cool exhaust clips and stuff for you guys. So if you guys like the video, make sure you guys check out HF Automotive Performance. If you're in the Houston area, they can take care of any of your automotive performance needs, and I'll put their link in the description below. If you have any other questions, comments, whatever, leave it down below. I'll answer the best I can, and check out my Instagram as well at RNM3. I'll have more pictures and videos and stuff on there. So I appreciate you guys watching, and shout out to Dundon Motorsports for the exhaust. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video.